The first light of morning came slowly to the Lai family's mountain. It did not burst across the sky as it did in the lowlands. It slipped shyly between bamboo stalks and laid itself, with polite care, on the leaves of orange trees. The orchard glowed faintly, fruit like tiny lanterns, half green and half gold, promising sweetness, but still holding back. Dieu Ca stood at the edge of the grove with a coil of rope around his wrist and a basin of water dampening his palms. His gaze swept the hill the way a farmer's does, quickly, almost like counting. But behind that speed lived the old anxieties. Which branches needed bracing, which fruit would be ready after 3 more cold nights, how much time remained before frost leaned on the trees like an uninvited guest. He whispered a greeting to the oranges, to the chickens scratching near the yard, and finally to the small house with a patched roof where his wife and children were stirring. The mountain answered as it always did, a wind that moved the bamboo like a folded fan, a creek below muttering its old story about hunger and time, a dog stretching and yawning as if it had guarded the world all night. Inside, the room smelled of rice and wood smoke. Lan moved between stove and table with the quiet rhythm of someone who had learned to make not enough look like plenty. Her apron was plain and faded from years of washing, her hair pinned quickly, but her eyes were steady as a hearth. She set down bowls. "Breakfast is simple," she said. Simple meant rice porridge, pickled greens, and the thinnest sliver of dried fish shared between all of them. Han, their daughter, folded her legs neatly and tapped a finger against a tin cup, whispering numbers under her breath. She liked to count everything, beans, coins, even the steam rising from her bowl. Ben, the younger, leaned against the bamboo bench and blinked stubbornly at morning as if refusing to negotiate with it. After a few spoonfuls, Han brightened. "When we're finished, I'll supervise the geese," she announced. She used supervise the way other children used play. Lai smiled. "First eat," he said, "then supervise the world." The house was full of clinking and slurping and the kind of peace that comes not from silence but from belonging, until Lai cleared his throat. "Today," he said, "I will go down." The spoon paused in Lan's hand. Han stopped counting. Ben frowned as if danger had wandered into the room. "Down where?" Han asked. "Down the mountain," Lai replied. "Down to town." "To find work." His voice was steady, but the words were heavy. "There is work here," Lan said softly. "There is," he agreed, "but not enough coin. Winter is coming. Tet is near. The oranges will help, but they will not fill every bowl. We need something certain." He didn't tell them how last week he had carried a basket of fruit to the market only to return with half unsold, or how buyers offered prices that insulted both the tree and the hand that tended it. He didn't say the numbers in his head no longer balanced, no matter how he rearranged them. He just said, "I'll bring something back." Ben, solemn as an old man, pushed his bowl forward. "Bring a toy truck," he demanded. Lan sighed. "Bring yourself." Morning stretched into chores. Han washed bowls with severe precision. Ben scattered feed and lectured the geese about good behavior, and Lan tucked 2 boiled eggs, a bite of yesterday's rice cake, and a packet of sesame salt into Lai's old cloth satchel. She set her hand not on his shoulder, but on the satchel itself, as if blessing the road he would walk. "Don't be proud," she said. "I am not proud when hungry," he answered. "Don't be brave." "I am brave only when watched," he said, glancing at the children. "Then watch yourself." At the orchard, he tied a leaning branch and pressed his thumb into a fruit that would sweeten properly if spared one last cold. "Soon," he told it. He turned to the path. Han ran after him, breathless, and pressed the largest coin she owned into his palm. "For the road," she said. "I earned it." She hadn't, not really, but she wanted to believe it. "I'll invest it wisely," Lai promised, pocketing it like treasure. He bent to Ben's height. "Guard the geese from their ideas." "I'll punch a thief," Ben declared, fist small but fierce. "Punching is last," Lai said. First, negotiate. Lon walked only to the first bend. Superstition said not to go farther, but the bend offered a private moment. The buyer, she said, he promised to come this week. I know. He promises too many things. Then don't sign anything that cannot walk to the commune office on its own, Lai told her. And if he offers a deposit? Make him feel its weight, Lai said. They shared a silence heavier than any contract. He touched her palm, rough against rough. 3 days. If I find work, I stay. If not, I return. You return either way. I return, he said, and the bend swallowed him. The path tested him at once. Loose stones, steep angles, last year's landslide scar still raw in places, but his feet knew every turn. At the creek, he dipped a cloth into cool water and tied it around his neck, watched dragonflies practice aerial mathematics, and listened for the sound of his own body in the landscape, as hunters do. Nothing unusual. Nothing yet. Far below, the market woke. Voices bidding and barking, motorbikes coughing like sick dogs, the smell of grilled pork drifting up like a cruel tease. He tightened the straps on his satchel and pressed forward. Trouble arrived as a vibration in the air, shouts, hurried footsteps, the rhythm of panic. Lai turned a bend and saw 2 men sprinting uphill, their breath ragged, their eyes sharp with desperation. Behind them, blue uniforms appeared, police shouting commands. The first man crashed past Lai like a gust of bad weather. The second, larger, tried to shove him aside. Years of wrestling with earth and storms took over. Lai braced, set his shoulder, and redirected the man into brush with a forceful twist. A fist flew back and found his jaw. Pain flared, but the robber stumbled and a pair of cuffs clicked shut. Dust rose, orders barked, then quiet. You helped us today, an officer said, clapping Lai on the back. Brave, they called it. He called it necessary. By town, the market had reached full storm. Scales clinked, pigs protested, bargaining crested and broke like waves. In the shade of a tea stall sat Tuan, an old friend with jaw softened by kindness and eyes still sharp. He slid a glass toward Lai. You look like you wrestled a storm, he said. Lai smiled, then winced, then drank. Tuan's face grew serious. Be careful. Men like those don't forgive. If they remember your face, they'll find it again. They watched the market's exchange of needs and numbers. There's a site, Tuan offered. Construction. Hard, dirty, honest enough. Pay after 3 days. It wasn't much, but it was something. And another thing, a buyer sniffing around for oranges. Smooth talk, quick promises, paper cheaper than breath. If he comes to your house, watch him. He'll try to turn your orchard into his with a smile. Lai's stomach tightened. I'll warn Lon. Do, Tuan said. Between the two of you, don't let the mountain take what it hasn't earned. The worksite was a half-built house at the edge of town, brick walls rising unevenly, scaffolding creaking in the wind. Men shouted and sweated. A foreman in a too-clean hat squinted. Worked before? Fields, fences, walls. My hands no labor, 3 days trial. Food's your own, pay after Lai accepted. 3 days could be rice and sandals and maybe a carved truck for Ben. He lifted bricks with strangers while his thoughts climbed back up the mountain to the orchard and the woman with the unblinking eyes. Up there, the dog barked sharp and insistent. Lan stepped out, wiping her hands on her apron. A man stood at the gate. His motorbike leaned casually against a tree. His smile was quick, his shirt too neat for anyone who belonged here. Good afternoon, he said. Your husband and I spoke earlier. He mentioned an orange orchard. Lan's heart tightened. Lai had left before dawn. He had not spoken to anyone. The man was lying or bending truth until it was unrecognizable. She kept her face even. "Come in, have some water." They walked among the trees. Sunlight filtered, fruit glowed, leaves whispered. The man plucked an orange, split it with a pocket knife that flashed like a small lie, and tasted. "Sweet," he said, wiping his lips. "Clean. No chemicals. City buyers will pay well." He strolled between rows as if already measuring ownership. "How many trees?" "Enough for my family," Lon replied. "Enough for more," he corrected smoothly. "I'll make it simple. I'll buy the whole harvest for 15 million. The number was dizzying, but numbers can be bait as easily as fish. "Why so generous?" "Because I know value, and I have buyers waiting." Here, from his satchel, he produced a folded document, already written in tidy strokes. Her name, a blank for her signature, numbers lined like soldiers. "Deposit 5 million now, balance next week." He counted bills. 4 neat stacks sat on the table. "You said 5, Lon said quietly. "I'm short one today," he answered as though missing a coin were nothing. "But next week, trust me." Her mind worked quickly. Accepting meant signing away the orchard for less than promised, with proof as thin as his smile. Refusing meant risking the only buyer before frost. She heard Lai's voice. Paper should be able to walk to the commune office without needing a stick. Han's solemn arithmetic. Ben's fierce little fist. The bruise waiting for Lai's jaw. Slowly, she pushed the money back. "Come with the full deposit," she said. "Bring the paperwork to the commune. Then we will talk." For a breath, his smile cracked, and something sharp looked out through his eyes. "You may regret this. Better to regret refusing," she replied, than to regret signing. The dog barked as he gathered his money and papers. His motorbike coughed away down the path, leaving a string of dust the wind soon unknotted. Lai returned after dark, body aching but alive with the small certainty of work. He found Lon in the orchard, fingers black with earth, the smell of leaf and sap steadying her. She told him everything. He listened, jaw tightening. "Tuan was right," he said. "That buyer smells of the same smoke as the bandits." "I refused," she said, "but he may come back." "Let him," Lai answered, courage larger than certainty. "We will face him together." 3 nights later, the mountain did not sleep well. Dogs barked through neighboring hamlets in a chain of alarm. The moon hung thin, the air tasted like metal. Lai woke to the whisper of feet. Hoe in hand, lantern low, he stepped among the trees with Lon beside him. 2 shadows moved between rows, testing fruit. "Leave them," Lai called. One slipped away. The other lingered, grin visible even in weak light. "Fruit is heavy," he said. "Easier for us to carry." Lai lifted the hoe. "Easier for me to bury it here than let you take it." Silence stretched like a bowstring. Then the man spat, cursed, and vanished into the dark. Leaves trembled. "They'll be back," Lon whispered. "Yes," Lai said, "but so will we." At dawn, they carried their story to the commune. The officer listened, wrote, and stamped. A thin shield, but a public one. Word spread in the market. The Lai family's oranges were clean, the hands trustworthy. Honest buyers came, not with glittering promises, but with baskets and fairer prices. It was not 15 million. It was enough. Winter arrived without snow, frost edging leaves, wind biting, smoke from chimneys lingering as if reluctant to leave. The orchard, stripped of fruit, looked bare yet proud, branches lifted like bones that remembered strength. Inside, mornings began with the hiss of the kettle and the soft shuffle of wool socks mended too many times. Han practiced numbers with a stick of chalk. Ben pushed a wooden truck across the floor, its wheels clattering like small drums of determination. Lon's ledger carried more ink this season. Not riches, but enough. Rice stacked in a corner, jars of pickled greens, a few dried fish hung high from the rafters. Every coin had been earned honestly. Every meal tasted like survival. Evenings were the richest part of the day. Around the low table, bowls of soup steamed against the cold. Lai's hands bore new calluses. His jaw still held the faint memory of the robber's fist, but his eyes were steady. "We kept the orchard," Lan said, almost to herself. He took her hand. "We kept ourselves." That is the greater harvest. Han looked up from her coins, serious beyond her years. "We did the arithmetic right," she declared. Ben drove his truck straight through her neat stacks, toppling columns into laughter that filled the room until even the mountain seemed to smile against the shutters. The buyer did not return. Perhaps the commune's stamp traveled faster than his courage. Perhaps the bandits found other doors to test. Danger still lived in the hills, but for now it passed their gate. In its place grew something quieter: reputation. Neighbors stopped to trade tools, to share labor, to drink tea that tasted better because it was not drunk alone. Honest buyers learned the way to the Lai orchard. The road, once unfriendly and often treacherous, began to remember their footsteps kindly. On a morning rimed with frost, Lai stood with a hand against the trunk of the oldest tree. Steam ghosted his breath. "We'll plant more," he whispered. "We'll mend fences." "We'll stay," Lan joined him, shawl tight, cheeks flushed. "You promised to return," she said. "And you did." He shook his head. "No, it's only the beginning. For Han, for Ben, we owe them more than survival. We owe them a future." Together they walked toward the house, the orchard behind them glowing faintly in the winter light, bare yet alive, like a candle hidden inside a lantern. Life in the uplands would never be easy. The mountain would always test them with floods and thieves and smooth-talking buyers. But the family had learned something stronger than fear: the courage to say no, the wisdom to wait, the faith that even in the harshest season, their roots held. When Tet came, their table was modest but proud. Steam rose from bowls. Red paper charms fluttered against the cold. Laughter found the corners of the room and refused to leave. Han counted coins one last time before tucking them into her pocket. Ben raced his wooden truck in circles until he collapsed giggling on the floor. Lai and Lan shared a glance across the lamplight, a glance full of promises unspoken but deeply kept. True wealth was not the 15 million dangled like bait, nor coins that vanish as quickly as they appear. It was the orchard that still stood, the small house that gathered its people each night, the unbroken promise to keep what was theirs and to face the mountain together. And if a stranger asked, someday, what life here was like, Lai would point to the trees and say, "We grow sweetness on a slope that does not always want to be a field. We carry it down to town and bargain without shame. We count carefully, we share deliberately, and when the paper lies, we choose the hands we trust." Then he would pour tea, and Lan would ladle soup, and Han would correct the change, and Ben's truck would rattle like a drum line for ordinary courage. Outside, the mountain would practice its breathing. Inside, the lamp would make a small gold country on the table. And the road, whatever it brought next, would find them ready.